Yeah. Welcome back to the Nerdrotic Podcast. My name is Gary Buechler. I am live in San Francisco, California. I come to you from nerdrotic.com.
What?
Yeah, and down or where? Minnesota?
Over,
Where are you
yeah, I'm in
now,
Minnesota.
Jon
I'm in
Reed?
Minneapolis today for the
Oh, don't you
holiday for
know?
Thanksgiving. Yes, exactly. Go
Ah,
Vikings, I guess.
go.
Yeah.
Oh
But
my
more
God, you're wearing
importantly,
a
go
Vikings
Marvel.
hat.
Go Marvel.
You've gone native,
I've
John.
gone native. Exactly.
Minnesota, don't you know? Is that your friend in the wood chipper? That's North Dakota. Sorry. Uh, yeah. So we are here covering The Runaways, which dropped last night. And damn, I had to work
So
or I would have
yeah,
watched them all.
I want to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah.
They say it's Tuesday, right? Like, hey, Runaways coming Tuesday, November 21st. And then we don't I'm getting a little bit of echo. Can you just tweak your thing a little bit?
Yeah.
Sorry about this, guys. Okay, cool. And then all of a sudden we find out that it drops Tuesday. They never give us a time or anything like that. Tuesday on the West Coast in California is really Monday night at 9 p.m., which is exactly when The Gifted airs. So it didn't drop Tuesday, it dropped Monday night essentially. And that kind of screwed things up for us. So sorry that we're coming at you maybe a little after you watched it, but this is Tuesday, so technically it's on the same day as the release. And yeah, I'm just happy we're getting this stuff at all. They dropped 3 episodes on us this week, and then after this, it's going to be 1 episode a week. Man, I want to binge this so bad, but I'm also really happy that we're getting the time off to talk about everything that's happening. Talk about some of the changes they've made and what we think is coming. So it's a podcaster's dream that we get to get this stuff released week to week. But I'm just so excited because I think the show's
Oh yeah. For selfish reasons, I'm really glad they didn't binge it. That doesn't help us recappers at all when they drop everything at once. So I'm glad they're doing that. But it was Tuesday somewhere, and this is the same
That's
thing
true.
they did with American Gods and Ash vs. Evil Dead. It's okay. And next week we will be actually live Monday. It'll be a Tuesday for some people, Monday for us. So
Exactly.
yeah.
Monday on the West Coast.
We're gonna figure it out. But yeah,
We'll get the schedule down a little bit tighter.
Yeah, it'll be on our website. So, John,
But let's talk
what do you
about it,
think?
man. Let's talk
Yeah.
about the first 3 episodes of Runaways. So the other thing I did want to say for you guys listening, watching, we're gonna do our best to stay away from major comic book spoilers in our general discussion. But as there'll be a point in which we'll tell you guys who are worried about that to tune out, and we'll get in a little bit deeper at the end of the podcast. So just stay tuned for the larger spoilery discussion. But yeah, okay, let's get into this thing, man. But we are going to be talking about general things that are different from the comics and stuff like that, because I don't think you can really assess this show without at least touching on the source material.
No, not at all. So, yeah, I was very pleasantly surprised, like how good this was. I thought it was going to be pretty teen drama, cheesy, and there will be people who argue that it is, but I don't know. It wasn't. I was expecting OC kind of stuff, some CW stuff, and while there was tidbits of it, it was definitely more adult. It was, I don't know, it was really polished. The directing, the everything about this was just. It looks like there was a lot of money put into this. Looked really good. And being a fan of this comic, for one, I'm going to pat myself in the back a little bit. When this came out, back in, what was it, 03? It came out, it was like the first year I owned the comic book store, and my wife used to do the ordering with me. She picked this book out. She's like, ooh, and she loved the cover, which is, here's the cover, ladies and gentlemen. It's a beautiful cover. It's got a little glare there, sorry. But she just picked it out for the cover, and I'm like, all right, I'll order 15 issues. And it was part of this Tsunami line that Marvel was doing.
Yep.
And which it largely failed. It had 2 great books in it, though, both written by Brian K. Vaughan, and it sold out in an hour in my store, just based on the cover. The interior art is not as good, but
I think it's pretty good. I don't know, but yeah, no, the cover is pretty fantastic.
I call this the most original thing Marvel had done in years, in many, many years, creating new characters, something that wasn't connected to the Marvel universe. It even gives you the in the comic, it kind of shows some Marvel characters in the beginning. We'll get into that later, but in a very different way. And it kind of blew my mind. And we also later that year met the inker of this comic, Mike Newbold, and he gave us some original art and gave us some more details on it. We just totally got in the story, and the thing turned out to be a runaway hit.
That was good.
Yeah, I see what I did there.
It's a runaway
But
hit. It's a runaway scene.
I always said like this would be a perfect TV show. This would
Yes,
be a
yes.
perfect
Actually,
TV show.
let's bring that up, man, because we used to talk about before the MCU even existed, pre Iron Man, before all of that. Gary and I would hang out and just talk about comic books, like you're seeing now, but a long time ago and without a camera. And this was one of those things you and I talked about a lot, about how there are certain properties that would work really well as movies and that are like good little like tight stories that that these Marvel and DC could tell, but there are also certain books that would just like always lend themselves better to a TV series. And when Runaways came out, we both just kind of sat there and said, like, this is like reading a TV series. This is like reading a good TV series. It was in like little arcs with a larger narrative. Like we have the big thing where these kids are dealing with the fact that their parents are supervillains and they need to get out from under that. But then there are all these little arcs within that, like 2 or 3 episode arcs, which we see the show do brilliantly tonight when they release 3 episodes that are like a very tight narrative arc, right? I think it was really smart of them to release these 3 episodes because it kind of showed, I think, what we're going to see is like these mini stories told with this larger problem. Hanging over these kids, that their parents are supervillains and that they own the city, and so nothing the kids do, they can't alert their parents that they know that this is going on. They're trying to figure out what's really going on, and they also don't have anywhere else they can go because their parents basically own law enforcement. They're very powerful people in LA. Like the media, all that stuff is beholden to them. So, I think it always lent itself to a TV show. And what Hulu has done, and Josh Schwartz and Stephanie Savage, who are some of my favorite showrunners. They did The OC and Gossip Girl. I feel like they've elevated their style. They were always really great with tone, right? Like the tone of Gossip Girl and the OC is what made those shows. They were nostalgic and interesting and quippy, and they always had a good dialogue tone and visual quality about them. But this is like way more cinematic. It's way moodier. Like they nailed the tone of the comic books in this show, and I think that if they keep nailing the tone and these characters, like I can't see this show going astray. When we first saw The Gifted, I was like, look, it's got issues, but I love this genre. I love this whole thing. So like, even if it gets a little bit, fillery or network TV, I'm still going to be okay with the show just because it's my thing. Runaways is something that I think anyone can watch and enjoy. I think it's like the pinnacle of a comic book adaptation aimed for a general audience. Like I think it's a nearly perfect TV show as of now, and I don't see like signs of it getting any less so.
I think it plays really well to its audience, which is 18 to 35. I am way above that range. So this is normally the show I'd be like, I'm a superhero fan. I'm going to watch it, but it's not going to be like my highest priority, kind of like how I've become with the CW shows.
Right.
Like I was really into them at first, but I kind of and especially with what's dropped with Marvel the last week or so. What an amazing month November has been. Okay, freaking Thor and Justice League, Stranger Things right before that. I know it wasn't November, and then Punisher, which was amazing, and then this, which I was not expecting this to be that good, John. Like that's the one thing I was like, I was prepared to tolerate this show, but I was into it, and I mean within the first 10 minutes, just from the way it looked and the storytelling, like you said, was really tight and sophisticated.
Yeah.
And but not being pretentious. It's not pretentious. It could be this could be, this is great writing, okay, because this could be what people would consider like SJW nonsense and just tear it to bits, but it's not. It really isn't. It's well-rounded, good storytelling. They did some weird changes, whether we'll talk about,
Yeah, I
but
want to get into those changes,
yeah,
but I want to touch on that first. Like the writing is top notch because
yes,
these are general archetypes of characters. You've got the jock, you've got the cheerleader who's kind of into like, you've got this religious cheerleader, blonde religious cheerleader. You've got the like SJW girl with purple hair and combat boots. You've got like the goth girl. You've got, the little Latin girl. You've got the geeky, he happens to be black in this, but he's just like he's just like a geeky kid who loves video games and is just really smart. You've got your nerd essentially, and you've got all of these archetypes. But the way that they like put it together in this show, there's like the jock is super sympathetic, right? Like he almost is like accidentally a jock, right? Like he plays into it, right? But like you can tell there's like this sensitivity there. He protects Carolina from getting basically raped in this episode. The cheerleader is like on the verge of this rebellion. Her parents own a mega church of basically Scientology, and like she's ready. She's on the verge of this rebellion. Like the goth girl is only really a goth girl because her sister died, and she's kind of assuming the personality of her sister to keep her alive. Like I just love how they've taken these archetypes and just like smoothed them out and made them like really interesting. I don't know if you felt the same way, but like I just felt like it was really well how they took these very generalized things and made them much more interesting than I've ever seen them.
Yeah, they modernized the Breakfast Club a little bit, and that's
Yes.
kind of what this book is. Now, I'm not one of those people who is fully nostalgic for high school. High school was a thing that I avoided as much as possible, and don't miss it at all. I don't have like, God, I miss my high school days. Not that person at all. So that's why high school stuff kind of, for me. But just nailing the look of the characters for one, which is, this is an easy book to like, you can just kind of make them look like the characters, but they really nailed the look on
Yes.
most of the characters.
Yeah.
And I cannot believe how good this was. I was blown away. I was texting you all day and I was watching it at work. Yeah, confession. If my boss is watching, sorry, it was my morning today. I got my work done, so whatever. But I blew through 2 episodes at work on the clock, and and it was great. So I don't know. You want to just start digging?
Yeah,
through
let's dig in. We've got 3
here?
episodes to cover. So,
Yeah.
do you want to like just generally talk about each of the characters first,
Yeah,
since that's
yeah.
kind of what the first episode is an introduction to those characters? So, yeah, let's talk about how they compare to the comic book, but also just generally who they are and what we feel about them. I don't know where you want to start with that.
Well, let's start with Alex.
Yeah, let's start with Alex. So, Alex Wilder, the son of a real estate mogul, who has some sort of a like gangster past. His gang buddies show up halfway through these 3 episodes and try to shake him down. But Alex is like a gamer. He's like a really smart. You can tell he's kind of very, very smart, but he's also like it opens with him playing video games. I feel like with Alex, they've nailed the they've kind of nailed his look. I do think he's a little different than I read the character in the comics. He comes off a lot quieter than I felt he was in the comics. I felt like he was much more overt about trying to get the group back together. Like he was trying to get the group back together, but he did it in a very quiet, subtle way. And I feel like they're kind of making his character a little bit more subtle. And obviously they're hyping up the relationship between him and Nico. So those are kind of the 2 tweaks. I think they're smart tweaks. I think it makes the character more interesting. He like, again, more subtle. But what did you think of how they dealt with Alex?
I thought it was pretty good. I reread the first couple issues, and yeah, I agree with you. He's a little more subdued. It might have something to do with the reunion aspect. I don't want to get too much into spoil. I don't want to spoil the like you said. Normally we'd spoil the hell out of the comic, but
I have a feeling there's going to be a lot of viewers that are
there's
going
to be a lot of people who are going to go and pick it up now. So I don't want to do that. Definitely go to your local comic store.
Yep.
Okay, and buy the comic. Do not go to Amazon. Don't go to a book. Go to a bookstore if it's not Barnes and Noble.
Oh, and on the TV side, guys, don't pirate this stuff. Go to Hulu, get your subscription, even if it's just to watch this. They're producing some really good stuff right now. I'm not a big fan of like Handmaid's Tale, but it's won a lot of awards. It's a great programming. Future Man is pretty friggin' funny, and I think Runaways is a huge hit. And I would hate to see them have to scale back on this because too many people are pirating the content and not paying to watch the content that they're producing. So, go support the stuff you actually like. I think this
Yeah,
is one of those things that's definitely worth it. So
that's why we're
anyway,
losing Ash versus Evil Dead
yep,
because of pirating. So,
yep,
no, Alex, I thought spot on, and they nailed the look, which was kind of a
yeah,
funny look, kind of
yeah.
a
It was hard. The hair was like
yeah.
not symmetrical. Like, yeah,
It's
it's an
not
interesting
something you
look.
see in real life.
Yeah.
So it
But it
was
looked natural. It looked like a natural. It looked like a look, and I love the
yeah.
T-shirt.
There's Alex, right?
Uh,
Oh God, this terrible glare, but there's Alex right there.
Yep,
Yeah. So
there is. And I love the number one, the one T-shirt that he's wearing in the same color scheme. Like he looks so perfect. And I also thought they kind of tweaked the relationship with his father. They're definitely
oh
kind
God,
of
yes.
playing on like they're almost giving it like a single dad, like how a normal show would write like a single dad as being like this good dad, but he's just a good dad. And like he's got such a great relationship with his son where he's basically just saying like, look, you can come to me with anything. And so that's why it's so hard for Alex to go against this, is because his dad is so open with things. It almost seems like his mom is the one that might, that Alex is more wary of. So I really love the dynamic between the father and son in this. And I think that it's going to play pretty well going forward. And I think it was also another smart tweak to make it a more warm
Yeah,
relationship.
that is more than a tweak, though, with his dad.
Yeah.
That is way more than a tweak. They made him a soulful saint, I will say,
Yeah.
quoting somebody else who does videos. But yeah, he's way different from the source material. We'll just say that. But
Though the
in a good
main
way.
thing, I think we can say this, the main thing about him is that he's much more remorseful. Like in this episode, we see them sacrifice a girl, and he's much more like not happy about the situation in the show than he is in the comic. I don't think we don't really get a lot of like, oh, maybe we shouldn't be doing this stuff from the character in the comic that we did in this couple of episodes. So
No, the comic's way more straightforward,
yeah,
because and also you got to tell the story quicker. But the first episode was essentially the first comic, and
yeah,
that was for the most part,
yeah,
with a lot more characterization and filling in some the changes that they made. I mostly liked.
yes. Me
So
too. I would actually say that a few, like most of the changes I thought were like brilliant, like really well done, and I understood why, right? Like there was a clear motivation behind the change. Some of it was like production oriented, and some of it was modernization, and some of it was for the story. And I loved all of those changes. There's a couple changes I can kind of understand why, but don't really love. And then there's a couple changes that I don't see why and I don't really love. So yeah, we'll definitely get into that stuff. But were there any other changes or any other things you wanted to touch on with Alex? Like he's the main character, but he's definitely the least defined, I would say, right now in terms of how he plays into the group. Other than that, he really wanted to. He seemed very sad that his friends had left and gone their separate ways, and his whole goal is to try to reunite them, at least for tonight, right? And it seems like he really misses them and just wants to be friends with them again, so he's trying to orchestrate like a reunion. And you know they definitely are now bonded together.
they
So
are, and I like the reason for the reunion.
yeah, so that has changed. That's a
Yeah,
change. This
that's
Amy doesn't exist in the comic books.
no,
Nico,
she doesn't. So, yeah, we're gonna have to tell some things from the comics. Sorry,
yeah,
that's just gonna happen. But yeah, that change right there, I thought that was brilliant to make the reunion about that, because that gives it a little more impact. I guess I don't want to speak for everybody in the world, but I grew up around a group of friends that we all spread apart. Usually, right around high school is when you start drifting apart, and then you get your second group of friends. Yeah, I don't have any friends from childhood anymore. They're all gone. But that was a cool scene, because what his dad said was right. Like they will nobody will ever know you like your friends from childhood. I guess if teenage is still childhood, so yeah, I guess my wife. I know my
right,
wife
right.
from childhood, I
Yes.
guess. But yeah, I just thought that I don't know. Only rereading a couple of comics, it just felt like they got Alex perfect to me.
They got Alex perfect.
Yeah,
I agree.
and yeah, there's only one character I actually, and we'll get to her, that I don't think they got
Probably
perfect.
last in the order
Yes,
here.
last in the order. Uh, but like, I guess let's do. Who do you want to do next?
Nico, let's do Nico next. So
Yes. Nico.
Nico, I think this is going to be a fun debate here because we've been texting
Okay.
each other about this. So
Yeah.
Nico was a character that I've loved. I would say she's probably the breakout character from the season, from the series into the MCU in general, or into the Marvel universe in general.
Sister Grimm.
Sister Grimm, she shows up
Yeah.
in a lot of other comics other than Runaways after this, after she was introduced. She's got such an interesting look. Um, I love that she's experimenting with the staff already in the third episode. Um, Here's my thing. This is the character I feel like has diverged the most in personality and a little bit in look. In the comics, she was much happier. Like when she
Yes.
arrives that night, they're like, "Oh, did you make your own clothes?" In the comics, he's like, "Oh, did you make your own clothes? Like, what are you wearing?" She's like, "Yeah, I made all this myself." Like she's just like really in like it's almost like she's like a steampunk girl who's like designing her own outfit. It's like she's not as like emo goth. She's more like I don't know, cartoon goth. I don't know in the comics. So also because they made the change that they're dealing with her sister dying, it makes sense why they changed that aspect of the character. Like she's much happier, at least when we meet her in in the comics. It's more like she's just experimenting with this look, and she used to be this huge nerd, and now she's coming into her own as this like goth chick. But in this, it's like her sister died. Her sister was more like this, it seems, from the pictures, and she's kind of assuming that some aspects of her sister. I also felt like the casting was the least like visually the same with Nico. Here, she was much like she always seemed much like taller and like a bigger presence in the group. Then she comes off as a little bit like with like retreating in this. And again, I understand the reason for that because of the story change. But I do feel like they've nailed the magic element of it. And the more that I watched it, the more I came around to enjoying this version of Nico. I think that she's much more dynamic, and I'm really looking forward to it. But what did you see? Like you, I feel like maybe you're like Nico's perfect. Like, do you think they? Am I missing? Am I missing something? Did I read this wrong?
I'm a little bit older than you, John. So she is a true goth.
Yeah,
She's a true goth. This is before emo goth. We're talking like 80s, Joy Division, Cure, early Cure, Susie and the Banshees goth. That's what she
yeah.
is. And yeah, she's depressed because her sister's dead. She was probably she was probably just a little angry. I don't know if I can't ever see her happy, but yeah, happy goth doesn't make sense to me.
No, but that's how they introduced her in the comic, right?
Yes,
Like
absolutely. She
she
was
was
a
hanging out with
on top of
Carolina, and they were like having their little like girl moment. They were like fangirling over each other, and it was like it's cute, right? There was a lot more cute stuff in the comics that this show is not going to give us. And again, we'll
no.
get there with Molly, but I think part of it was changing Nico a little bit. So like to me, like Gert, Chase, Carolina, and Alex seemed almost dead on for how I read them. Like the tone of those characters, their moods, their action, all everything. The actors were like really portraying how I kind of read it, like almost word for word from the comics, not word for word, but like feeling for feeling from the comics. Whereas like with Molly and Nico, I definitely felt like this is a different version of this character that I'm not really used to. But the more I watch it on this show, the more I enjoy the fact that at least Nico is the way she is in this. And her relationship with Alex develops much more quickly and in a very different way. In the show, they're bonding over this shared loss.
Yeah.
And in the comic, they're bonding over the fact that they're the oldest, like that they're trying to take care of this group. So it's like the mother and father sparking up a relationship in the comic, where this is like two sad mourning kids that are connecting over that shared experience. And so like there's something much stronger about that bond that the Hulu show is telling in a way.
Well, yeah. I the only thing I'm confused about is, was Alex in love with Amy
I think so.
or and yeah, okay. So he
They were
was in
either
love
in
with
love or
Amy.
like
Yeah.
best friends. I mean, there's
Yeah.
also maybe like they used to play video games together, they reference. So like there's also a chance that like Amy and Alex were like besties, and Alex always had a crush on her sister, Nico. Um, but and then Amy's gone, and now like they're both missing their link to each other, so they drift apart. Like I can read it that way too, but there was some deep relationship between Amy and Alex for sure.
Yeah, yeah, which I'm sure we'll find out. I'm sure everybody who's, if you're watching this, we assume you've watched all 3 episodes. I have no idea what happened to Amy. I'm assuming sacrifice. That's probably what
That
happened
would be
to,
interesting.
yeah, and that's what, because the marriage between Nico's mom and dad, Robert and Tina, um, is not good. But yeah, that might have been not good before.
Let's
Uh,
play speculation here, though, because
yeah.
there's a fire that killed Molly's parents, which we'll get
Yep.
to. We know that at the funeral, Nico's mom had scars on her hand, and they kind of reference that maybe Nico's mom started the fire. My guess is maybe Amy started the fire, and Nico's mom was trying to like protect her daughter, and her daughter was into some sort of crazy magic or something. So, like, I think that Amy has more to do with um, Molly's parents' death than she has to do with the Church of Gaborum or Jaborum, however they pronounce it.
Jaborum. Yes.
So that's my speculation. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe
No,
what
that's
you.
that definitely could be it. That it seems that way. It's definitely going to be related to, well, the pride and the Church of what
Jaborum.
Jaborum. I
Yeah.
never known. I just read it. Um,
Because remember, Gertz like, my parents are Jews, not Jibs. So
yeah,
then I always remember
yeah,
that Jiborum starts with a J, not a
yeah.
G.
Let's talk about Gert.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think she was perfect. Everything about that character, the actress playing her, the look of it, the attitude. She's objectifying Chase the whole time, like all 3 episodes. In fact, there's a moment where she puts on the X-ray goggles and like checks him out. Um, I feel like everything about Gert is perfect. Now, she wasn't so overt about her love for Chase. In fact, in the comics, that love, that love triangle, Carolina, Gert, Chase, never seemed like a realist. Like it didn't really ever become a triangle. It was always anyway. So there's
yeah,
just there's some changes there in like Gert's relationship with Chase, but I feel like again it was all for the better because it created this dynamic where Gert very easily could be like this you know everyone's calling her, everyone's teasing Chase for even being friends with her at school and stuff like that, and I feel like it could have gone where she's very not very self-assured or overcome or whatever, but it really came off like very naturally, like this is her, she's secure in who she is. Her parents are hippies. I don't know if she knows how she feels about that. She just had this crush on Chase forever. He's just very recently become the jock. So I just love I love everything about how they're treating Gert. What about you, Gary? Where are you with that? She's my favorite.
Gert looks like she does in the comics mostly. Mostly, I think
Okay.
the costuming looks good. It freaks me out a little bit that she looks like this girl I used to know in high school. Who was crazy. I
That's
won't name her, but I mean, like dead ringer. She is a dead ringer. God, I better not. Just that freaks me out a little bit. But no, she's great. She's played perfectly. I love how the whole, she's just an SJW to rebel, and she really, she still shaves her legs and checks out and objectifies, Chase, who's like, I don't care,
yeah.
are you staring at my junk? All right, fine, whatever,
Yep.
yeah, she was fun. She had the best lines. The actress playing her is great. Just the whole reaction when she got busted checking out his junk. She's like, what? Oh, just a second. I was just looking at it for a second. That was pretty good. It was pretty funny. So,
Yep.
yeah. Again, well done. This is you think it's the most spot on. I would tend to agree with you. I would, as far as from the comics. Uh, yeah.
Alex is close. I mean, like, look, I think a lot of them are very, very good. Like, I think Chase is really close to how I imagine Chase being. In fact, he might be the most spot on now that I think about it, but he's close. I think Alex is also very good, but they've changed some of his dynamics. I think the Amy stuff has changed Alex a little bit more, but Gert is very just Gert. Her relationship with Molly was always like a sister. like an older sister in the comics. So the fact that they actually made her older adopted sister in this, that change in and of itself doesn't bother me. I don't think it really tweaks how Gert is relating to the other characters, the other Runaways. So yeah, I think that she's probably in the most similar position and tone, and she was always the wisecracking one in the comics. She's still that. Um, so I don't know. Maybe not. But I do think that for me, I probably read her as this when I read the comics. So.
Now, how about her parents? How do you feel about her parents from the comic?
They're really over the top, man. They're the most over the top members of the
Yeah.
Pride in my opinion. Like these like super hippies who we find out in the third episode that they're planning on like turning on the Pride and going into hiding and trying to get out of this mob, mob
Yep.
mentality. So I don't know how I feel. Like the actors are both really good. They're
Yeah.
probably some of the most accomplished actors on the show. I just don't
Marshall from
know.
Alias.
Yeah, Marshall Reyes. It's tough, man. It's very over the top. What do you think? What did you think about them?
I'm having that's one of the things I'm having a little bit of problem with is the parents are too good. You know what I mean? Like just
Nico's
with
dad,
Alex's,
even though with the affair.
yeah, even with the affair, like it just seems like there's uh just basically a couple of women who are who are the most evil,
And
and
Chase's
Chase's dad, who's clearly losing it, who we'll talk about in a second. But yeah, that's something I'm having a problem with. They're trying to humanize the parents too much. I think it's an interesting move. It's a bold move. We'll see how it plays out. I know we're dealing with gray, but once we find out like why they're doing these sacrifices, which they haven't told us yet, we're not going to say.
and we don't even know if it's going to be the same thing
Yeah,
because
we don't know if it's going to be the same thing.
frankly, there are some changes that are going to make it tough for it to be the same thing. But anyway, keep going.
Yeah, yeah. So I found them. I liked those. That's the pair of parents I like the most in the comic book, believe it or not.
Interesting.
And yeah, and I think they just I don't know because I like crazy scientists like that. But yeah, I just yeah. Marshall being a bad guy, I just can't see it. I just can't see. I can't see him like being okay with what they did to Destiny. So yeah, that one's a little tough. That one's a little tough. But love Gert, and they would taking in Molly and stuff, and we'll
Do you
see.
want to like we'll get to Chase and Carolina because I think those are probably the easiest to talk about. Let's talk about Molly though, since we're talking about Gert and
Yeah,
their sisters now. So this was the thing I had the hardest time adjusting
yeah,
to.
me too.
So I've Molly in the comics is like this little cute mutant girl who's really, really strong and then falls asleep after she does big things. Like that's her whole thing. She's like
Yep.
funny. She like always calls people out in a funny, cute kid way. She brought an element to the team of like we need to protect this little girl. And they're
Yes.
trying to stick with that even though she's not a little kid. And she even like referenced that. I think they were smart to be meta about it. There was a couple moments in this where she's like, even I'm, not 12 anymore. I think she said at one point. It was just like they definitely reference the fact that they've aged her a little bit. Um, the the age thing doesn't bother me as much as the um, like they're trying to add diversity for no reason in that character. Like they've got this diverse cast of like an Asian family, a black family, and like I don't know, like adding like changing her ethnicity here just seemed like you've already made all these like important changes. I just thought it was like unnecessary. So like I don't know, we'll see where they go with that, but I just felt like by changing both her age, her parents and her ethnicity, they basically changed the character completely away from what she was. Um I might get shit for saying that, but I just like I like that I'm curious to find out how she got her powers because they can't have mutants in this world, and that's why they've made all these or some of these changes. But I just wish that she were still like the fun kid, not like this. She's just they're overcomplicating her character. I don't know. I guess that's the most I can say. Is they're just overcomplicating her character, and it's losing the like charm of this little little girl who's the strongest of the group, you know? What do you think?
And the funniest thing in the group, they lose the juxtaposition of this cute little girl being able to throw a bus,
Yes.
and I mean, punch the Hulk, stuff like that. It sucks that they did that. Now, yeah, you know what? You bring up diversity, but there's a little ad that plays in between each thing on Hulu about like they're the ones who bring it up. Like this is a diverse like whoa, identity politics is not something I'm a fan of.
No.
Okay. And I think it's really ruined Marvel in a lot of ways. This is the book you didn't need to. This
It
is
was already there.
property. This is so naturally well done. Okay. Like real people. That's all it is. We don't have to care who's what and where and why and when. It's just
Right.
a group of people that's totally believable, and it's in LA, and they're all the only thing common is they all have a lot of money, so this is an upper class thing, and an elitist thing. Yeah, but definitely making her older. She's closer to menopause than menstruating. Sorry, they made her way too old.
Yeah.
It sucks because that ruined the character. That's the only real complaint I have about the show, because I loved her. She was so damn funny in the books.
Yes. That
And
she was my favorite in the books, man. Like I know I've said that a couple people are my favorites now, but like I loved the like innocence of the character in the books. Like this kid, she doesn't even really know what's going on. Like she's like, we have to run away. Okay, I guess I trust you guys. Like, where are my parents? Like she doesn't even get it for the first arc or
no,
two.
yeah.
And like, I don't
Well, she's going through. Okay, it's going to change the dynamic of the show because, okay, I've had kids. Okay, so before they hit puberty, it's they don't worry about their mortality as much, and when they start hitting 10, 11, 12, they start becoming aware of their mortality, and that comes with puberty and stuff like that. So Molly is, not aware of these things. So that's where, her innocence comes in, and that's where the family dynamic, because what this turns into is a family,
Yep.
and they need to protect her, like you said before. And that becomes the main focus of this team, is like everybody's willing to like lay down for her, even though she's probably the most powerful one and could like, take on all enemies over any of them, except maybe Nico. But yeah, they kind of took that away, and that's going to be really hard to believe, her being the little kid when she is taller than Nico.
Yeah.
And yeah, and the in real life the girl's like 17, 16 years old.
Yeah. And
So
I think that's also the problem with the tweak they made to Nico is like Nico is the mother figure, and she looks like it in the comics. She looks older in a way than everyone else. Like Gertz would be the older sister. Chase, Gert and Carolina and Chase are like the older siblings, and then they've got like Molly, this little girl, right? And so now we've got Nico, who's like kind of retreating into things. She's very depressed about a lot of stuff. And then we've got Molly, who's taller than her. She's punching things out of the way. She's, more aggressive in a lot of ways. She's imposing. And it kind of ruins that, right?
yeah,
So this is, again, I just want to stress like, we're critiquing this show, which is like, to me nearly a perfect TV show. Like it's my favorite thing that I've seen in a long time. It's so good. And like this little thing was just kind of annoying to me, that I wasn't getting the Molly that I really wanted from the show. Now I've got a few friends who work or I've got a really good friend of me who works on the originals at Hulu. And he assured me that it was something that annoyed him about the show as well, but it does work in the long run. So I'm going to give it a shot. I just really wish, we're never going to get that now. We're never going to get an maybe we'll get a Runaways cartoon where we'll get little kid Molly, but it's just different at this point. It is what it is.
yeah. And so I mean, that's what we're going to reserve bitching about it now. We'll let it go. It didn't take away from the show, and it looks like they're clearly going in a different direction. And again, this show is clearly more adult than I thought it would be. So yay. Yay. I'm really very happy about that.
I do have to say, I did like the plot line where Molly left her little hair thing that her mom had given her
Yeah.
when she was a kid behind, and Alex's mom goes to like wipe her brain with this serum, and they have to suss out like, does she know anything? Does she doesn't? And Molly has to figure out like, okay, how much can I let on? What do I lie about? What don't I lie about? And I really loved that, right? Like at least we're getting something out of the fact that she's older. We can have those moments where like if she were a kid, I don't think that that would have played as well. Now the thing I didn't think played as well is when she crawled into bed with Gert. I was like, this makes sense if it's like a little girl and her older sister. And I know she said like, oh, this is what we used to do years ago. But in this show, it just kind of was weird that
Yeah,
this girl was crawling into
just a
bed
bit
with her
weird.
adopted sister. Yeah.
But yeah, that's every other character pretty much spot on, dude.
Yep. Yeah, let's talk
Um,
about two more that were pretty much spot on. Let's talk
yeah,
about, I think we could probably lump, well, no, let's talk about Chase because we can talk about his parents too. For
yep,
me, Chase was the highlight of uh, low expectations and high actuality. Like Chase was always just a fun jockey character. He was like he was made fun of because he's really the one who was the least powerful of the group, even though he's like the big guy. And he was always very self-assured, but took jokes really well in the comics. And they've really like softened him, but kept the essence of Chase. And the actor, you think you like this is a typical like, oh, they cast him because he looks good without his shirt on, like he just looks like a lacrosse player from California. But he's a man. He surprisingly was like nuanced and really good. I don't know. I That character could be very bland, and I don't think he was. So I don't know. I thought Chase was definitely a highlight for me of this. I think he might go under the radar as one of the better aspects of these early episodes.
yeah. He's probably the weakest character in the comic to me. And no, it was very good. It was very good. It wasn't my favorite, but he was the guy doing it. It's a change of look. He chases like a blonde kid, a blonde jock in the comic books. Not that big a deal.
Right.
Um, I think the biggest thing with him is his parents, and they did mention a big change from the book is in the book. The first time we see his dad, right, is him punching Chase in the face,
Yeah.
which is pretty hardcore. They referenced that, but they didn't do that, which is good because Chase's dad is one of our favorites from one of our favorite shows, James
Yep.
Marsters from Spike from Buffy, who looking a little older,
He's
looking a
looking
little
old.
older there.
But here's the thing: I feel like he aged really poorly before like Smallville, and then it's just kind of locked that in place. So I don't know. He's okay. I do like that he's playing like an old. Were Chase's parents? They were the scientists, right? The Gertz parents were the time travelers, or was it vice versa in the comics?
Chase's parents are he's got all the tech, so they're the
Yeah.
scientists, and Gert's parents are the time travelers.
Yeah. So in this, they're both kind of just scientists, but
Chase's dad is the mad scientist.
and
So
he's the one obsessed with time travel. So I don't know if that's going to pay off at some point where Gert's family really are time traveling. We don't know that yet, but um, we don't know. I mean, it looks like they might change all this stuff. So it looks like it's just kind of like a bunch of scientists, essentially, is what we've got
no,
here.
but this is the stuff I love. The tech he was working on, and they're obviously working on some. Okay, so how they kill Destiny. Destiny dies a different way in the comics
Yes.
than she does here.
Yeah. What is that pod?
So there's this pod that does it disintegrate her? Does it put her somewhere else? Does it put her essence into this old guy who's sitting this
In the Scientology
emaciated
building?
being that's in the Scientology building that looks like M plate from Gen
Yeah.
X a little bit. Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, his dad is, you know, obviously suffering from some kind of stress. Like he is stressed out. Like he's a dick anyway, but it looks like he's like really stressed out by something. And it looks like he's got just the battered housewife, you know, who chases mom. She's a little more than meets the eye though. I
Yep.
don't think she's just that. She's just trying to keep things together in the pride. Honestly, between all these parents, I don't know how the pride stays together.
I know.
They seemed way more cohesive in the comic, like way
Well,
more, you know,
yeah, they
single-minded.
did. At least at first, right? Like a lot of
Yeah.
these things that they've put in place early on don't really come present right away. That's the other thing I think they
Yeah.
did. They really moved forward reveals into these first 3 episodes that took a lot longer to get to, and we'll talk about that specifically with
but
Carolina.
held back some,
But held back
which I think it was really smart what they held back actually, because
yes.
I think if you would have done, that's why comics play differently than TV, because what worked for the comics great would not have worked for this TV show. And again, I'll repeat that they had to do these 3 episodes. I think that was a wise. I think they were probably going to do one at a time or maybe two, and they're like, oh, we better do three,
Yes.
to get people sucked in. It's an unusual move, but it was good because I think the second episode was a little slow. Out
Yeah,
of the three, I think it was probably the slowest. Loving
because
the
it had
third
the
episode.
least about with the kids. It was all the parents.
Yeah,
Yeah, the third was great, and so that's what happens in the third. What I was going to say was they in the third they reveal that they've been working on this serum that can like help get rid of memories. It's like a memory wipe serum, like a short-term memory wipe serum. And the reason they allude to the fact that the reason Chase's dad, Victor Stein, is going a little bit crazy is because he experimented with the serum on himself at some point. And they also, or they allude to the fact that that might be something, right? And that they definitely use the serum on Carolina's dad. So this serum might be playing into it. Now, I might be wrong. I might be misreading that. Maybe the serum isn't what's hurting Chase. It just has to do with Chase's dad. It just has to do with Carolina's dad. But I kind of thought maybe like, oh, like there's some people who are having issues, and maybe like the serum came into play there. So I don't know. Maybe the serum's just for. What do you think? Do you think that might be playing into Chase's dad at all, or he just listening?
yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Or just guilt, or maybe time travel, or being around that machinery. But maybe, yeah, um, yeah, because I forgot that you just mentioned that. Like, I remember them saying the name, like, "Hey, so and so has never been the same since we gave it the
That was
serum."
Carolina's
That's
dad.
Carolina's dad. I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, poor guy."
Yeah, like that's another change. Actually, let's just go. Like
Yeah, okay.
we're jumping all around, but let's just go there because Carolina is the daughter of two actors essentially, an actor and her mom started the Church of Jehoram, um, and her mom has kind of cut her dad out of their life in a lot of the church and all of this stuff, and we find out later that yeah, his memory's been fucked with.
Yeah.
So
And he was a
he
big actor, right? And
yes,
his name helped build the church. So he's like
and
the
built
Tom Cruise, but maybe he was having regrets or something. And
yeah,
they,
like maybe he's
like,
part of the
he's
pride. He
not
might
even
be.
ultra in his church anymore. He's not even a level where he can go into where his wife, his agent comes down and fires him. And he's all, well, you got all this stuff. And he's all, actually, it belongs to my wife. He's all, ooh, who
Who
negotiated
wrote
that
that?
deal?
Yeah,
Yeah.
who wrote that contract?
Like Cucky Cuckster, you
You
know?
need a piece of this.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we don't know where, like, was he part of the pride? Most likely. Was he involved with any of these deaths that we found out about? Maybe. His memory's all screwed up. He's not part of the church. I don't know, man. I think that this is so interesting to me. And that's why this change to create the Church of Jehoram and have, like, this is the smartest change that I think most. This is the smartest change I've seen in a comic book adaptation to TV. It's
That
just
was
great.
genius. That was absolutely genius. I'm like, oh, why didn't they do that in a comic, man? Just going. Well, probably because they're, well, he probably, because the think about it, like, that's the perfect thing to make the pride about. And maybe, maybe you were afraid to go after Scientology back then. There was a fear, not too long ago, of even messing with them. They had a lot of power in Hollywood, but they don't
Yep.
anymore. So, yeah, I think it's great. Making fun of the church Scientology or anything is good times. Good move.
Yeah.
Good move. Yeah.
So to me, like that was definitely the like spot on smartest change that they
Yeah.
made. And it seems like it wasn't even like necessary. Like that seems like a change that they were just like, you know, it would be cool if we did this. And it was. It was
Let's
cool.
stick
It
it
was
to him,
good.
man.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was
So
good.
so yeah, so then we get Carolina, who her reveal came sooner. Now we thought maybe it was drug induced for a second, but then it showed that she didn't
Well,
take the drug.
I've dropped a little acid in my time, and I've never seen my hands light up like stars. I've seen
Yeah.
stuff fall from the sky. I've seen a gorilla moving a boat across the street one time, but that really wasn't from acid because acid doesn't make you hallucinate. It's
No, mescaline
the
will though.
strychnine. Yeah, it's mescaline or the strychnine levels in your acid.
Yeah.
That might have been shrooms that I was tripping on, but it was a long
Nice.
time ago, kids. But yeah, never had a glowy star. She's Starfire. I was thinking about this. I'm like, oh my god, this is the freaking Teen Titans, by the way.
Yeah, it is very Teen
Nico's
Titans.
Raven, and then Carolina is Starfire. The personalities, right? Like Alex is definitely Robin.
Robin.
Yeah. So it's a Teen Titans, but in a
I
good
guess
way.
that would make Chase Cyborg. Yeah, that makes sense. We're just missing a Beast Boy, but anyway,
Gertz Beast Boy because she's got her pet, which we won't.
her pet, her
at all.
beast.
Yeah.
So Carolina, they give the reveal in episode 1 where she takes off her bracelet and gets all sparkly.
Yeah.
What did you think about that? That's a quick reveal. That
I
didn't
thought
come
that was
into
very cool. I thought the thing that happened after that was a little much. I mean, it was a good way of
I think that was
introducing
a good thing for Chase. Yeah.
But I just thought that was like, I saw that coming a mile away. I'm like, oh my God. So the girl passes out. And now, considering the things that have been happening in Hollywood of late, maybe that happens all the time down there. Maybe, I will definitely.
And college campuses. I think
leave
that
my
is
mind open.
Yeah. I think that is a likely thing to happen at a frat party. Not likely,
At
but I think that it
a
happens.
frat party, if like I can't see that happening with a girl passing out in the middle of a dance floor with a bunch of other girls around and stuff like that. Nobody freaking helping her at all.
Yeah.
And then 2 guys coming up and grabbing her and and just like, let's go do some raping. It's like, oh, come on. I understand they set that scene up for Chase to be a hero and stuff, but I was waiting for, when Chase, defends her and beats the crap out of those assholes. And then, like he's putting her belt back on and I'm like, oh shit, he's going to get, they're going to think
That's what I thought. Someone else is going to think it was him. Yeah. I totally was like,
I totally would not have done.
Out.
Yeah. That would have been a bad situation to be in, man.
Yes.
Cause oh boy. So yeah. Which would have been an interesting plot twist, but
yeah, it would have been.
Kind of glad they didn't go there. And I was like, that was a bit much, but
I don't know. I thought it was effective. Like it's also part of taking a story in the comics that was, again, very like kid friendly. It was very power packy at times, right? And making it like have emotional stakes to it. Like this is what drove them all back to Alex that night, is they all had these like really emotionally charged nights, and then he texted this manipulative picture of them together from before Amy died, and that's what really drew them all in, is they had to be at a very low spot to accept that, right? If Chase is having a great time at a party and he gets that text, he's just going to put it back in his pocket. So I don't know, I thought it was effective. I thought it was very effective. That said, I think that I
thought they tried to hit on every little teen beat they could, and that's fine. I can accept most of them, but it's like, really? Okay, fine.
Oh.
I got over it. I was like, come on.
To me, it always felt like they were avoiding a lot of the teen beat.
Oh, they hit every teen beat. Well, I'm a parent, so it just was obvious to us. Oh boy.
Yeah.
I've been to PTA meetings. I hear stuff. It's okay. Believe me. Well, I got a kid in junior high right now. You could not believe the crap I'm hearing. I live in San Francisco, and my kid goes to the most liberal junior high on earth. So
banning sugar in vending machines.
They swear to God. It's crazy. Okay, my kid goes to the junior high where the kid who won student class president, the principal of the school said he couldn't win because he wasn't diverse.
Oh,
and he won, and they took away his victory.
Oh my God. That's terrible.
Hey, whatever, man. He's getting good grades, so
that's all that matters.
On you, teachers, whatever, whatever works. But yeah, it was crazy. Hey, that made the news and everything. That was like 2 years ago. That's where my kid goes to school. But back to Carolina. I loved. She was. I mean, like that's how I imagined her in the book too. They really and the whole semi-innocent. That's another part of her. That's Starfire. It's like, oh, you rebelled. What's it like?
Yeah.
that was great. And
Yeah, she's been a part of this Church of Jehoram that her mom and dad, or mom
Yeah.
definitely started since like birth. And she's, you know, the perfect poster child for this church. And so she's been sheltered within this church for so long, she doesn't even think that there's any of this other stuff going on or there's anything outside of it. And so it's, yeah, it's very interesting to see like her uh, she was the most resistant when they see the sacrifice happen. She says, she basically said like, "Oh, we must not know what just happened. Like, uh, this wasn't, the church doesn't do this. Like, so she was definitely the most hesitant to believe what she saw in front of her, and I think that that's going to be an interesting thing to watch going forward.
Yeah, that was there was a lot of those. I hate to sound like that, but when I was going to high school, there was a lot of church that guys and girls that were like that were from the super religious. I don't know if that happens much anymore. Definitely not where I live,
Oh,
but
oh no, it does. It happens
yeah,
where you live
yeah.
too. Yeah, there's
Well,
a lot of
yeah,
born
I don't
again
know.
stuff
I don't
there.
know if it's Christian, but like there was definitely in San Diego, there was a lot of it was just more religious back then,
Yeah.
and a lot of Christians down there, and yeah, there was a lot of the kids who were. You could just tell that they were just a drug addict waiting to happen.
Yeah.
It was just that's one hit. They're one hit away from being over at my friend JD's house buying a bag of wheat. So yeah, that I thought that was a believable part of it, and that was a cool. And her parents, who we were just talking about, are really interesting. And I
Her
think,
mom, I think, is the mom, the woman who plays her mom had some of the most intense scenes in these first few episodes. She was so good. When she was
yeah,
convincing Destiny to not get on that bus and to go ultra, like that scene was crazy. Like she sold that. Like I was so impressed with that at that moment. She was definitely showing her chops.
oh yeah, well, because you could see the I'm evil, I'm gonna do this, but I feel a little bad about it, and she
Yeah.
did. Her maternal instincts were not winning at that point in time, but that's a big change from the comic too. Like her mom is, not maybe in personality, but just with the whole church thing, obviously. But
Yeah, because her
yeah,
mom's just an actress in the comics. Like her
yep,
her mom's not really around for a lot because they're supposedly in the New York, like they've got a gig. So like Carolina's parents early on in the comics were not very well developed, and they were also probably the least impressive of the parents, right? Like they have powers. Carolina can glow. Her parents have similar powers. We'll find out what that is later. But she the parents weren't like imposing. Whereas like her mom in this has cut her dad out of the whole thing. That's new. Her mom is basically like running the show. She's the one hanging out with this like dude in her private
yeah.
meditation chamber.
Who is
Like
that?
this, yeah. The
Who, who
the
who do you think that is? Do you have
I
any
know who
theories?
that is. I think
Okay,
I know who that is. So we'll talk about that in the spoiler section.
okay,
But
because
uh, you know,
okay. I wasn't putting it together. I wasn't, but
yeah.
yeah. So they are going to do the same thing then on that,
I
but
think
it's just
so.
going to
I
be
think it's just going
around
to be a
a
little bit different. Yeah.
little bit different. Okay, I got you.
Yeah.
I got you. That's cool. Okay, we'll talk about that in the spoiler thing.
Yeah.
Um,
So I just thought that the woman playing Carolina's mom was to me one of the most like she brought some like legit again the tone of this show as fun as it can be at times is like it has some weirdness to it. It's moody. It's a very moody show in its own way. And so to like have those moments like with her mom asserting herself in this like crazy ass church was just very is some of the most compelling scenes early on. Like some of the stuff with her, some of the stuff with Alex were very very interesting. I don't know.
definitely the best acting for sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm curious to see where Carolina goes from here because the naivete maybe is something that we expected from Molly, but maybe we'll get more from Carolina. I don't know. But and there's this kind of love triangle happening with Chase, Gert, and Carolina, where Chase and Carolina are these um, perfect, the perfect high school couple, the blonde, the pretty blonde, and the jock, and Gert's kind of the oddball in this, but she's definitely pushing to have more FaceTime with Chase. Gert is every time she can. So this love triangle is an interesting one, and it seems like they're not playing it how they would normally play a love triangle. It definitely seems like they're not, making it schmaltzy in any way. It's much more about like just being being friends and seeing how it develops. And only Gert's really aware of it. It seems at this point.
Yeah, well, because she's the smartest character too. I mean, the other two are. I mean, they're smart. They're just like she's a little above that. So,
Yes.
and this show is this comic book series is tragic. It's tragic. Without saying much more than that, it's that's what makes it great. And above all, especially that. Well, I don't know about any of the. Some girl named Rainbow is writing the new one. I'm not reading anything. I would only read this property if it's written by Brian K. Vaughan or Joss Whedon, with Brian K. Vaughan's guidance, because this is his baby, like through and through. I'm glad to see his name attached to it. I don't know how much actual writing or credit he's got involved in it, but the first and second run that he did were brilliant. I to this day I don't know why they got canceled. I think it's probably the art was
I thought the art was pretty good.
it was okay. I mean, it went well with the comics, and it really
Yeah.
went with this. This started out from a Marvel's first attempt to kind of go manga. Okay, and I thought that there's 5 series that came out as Inhumans and whatever, and Brian K. Vaughan did this in a Mystique series, which was brilliant, which was so damn good.
I didn't realize he did that too. The
Yeah,
Tsunami
he wrote the
Mystique
first part
series.
of the
I didn't realize that. Yeah, that was awesome.
Oh my god, it was so good. Best Mystique story ever told.
Yeah.
And it just didn't work out. But it's funny that Marvel's new editor-in-chief, CB Cebulski, was in charge of their manga line over in Asia, and he's coming over to run Marvel now. And I know Disney wants to make the comics more like manga. In other words, because that shit sells over there like crazy. And they want to try to emulate that over here. Good luck, but it's been tried before, but I think it might be possible if you got the right backing. And it'd be interesting if Brian K. Vaughan came back. I'm surprised he hasn't to come back and give it another go with these, although I don't want to say much more. I can't. Sorry. Pick up the comic and read it.
Yes.
Because
So
we're going to actually, next couple episodes, we're going to start diving into the comic pretty hard.
that's what I was going to say. So right now, we're kind of going over the introduction to this because we're trying to sum up 3 episodes in 1 hour.
Yeah.
We're only going to have to talk about 1 episode every week now, so we're going to get much more into the plot of what's going on. Where this is more like general impressions of what's happening.
It's a review.
So I just want to say, like, I think, like, I can't imagine I couldn't imagine a better adaptation of this comic book. Like, when I saw this happening, I was very excited for it. And like when we first saw The Gifted, it was like, oh, I really like this. Here's some issues. This isn't how I imagined this stuff looking. The budget doesn't seem that high, blah, blah, blah. There's nothing in these first 3 episodes that I look at as like anyone saying no. Like it seemed like everything they wanted to do, they got to do. They did it well. They got the music right. They got the sets right. They got the acting right. The casting's perfect. The writing is spot on. The tone of every scene makes sense for each character and what's going on. It doesn't get too dark. It doesn't get too light. Like it operates in this like perfect zone for this series. And again, I can't see it changing, right? Like it would have to actively go against the status quo it's set up to get bad. So it's like they've just kind of put all the pieces in place the way I'd want to see them for this thing to be successful. And basically at this point, it's just like I just want to keep seeing what they do because I just think it's going to get better and better. Like it's just on like the perfect track. The scene where it's like snowing in the room and then they have to clean it up, like the way they deal with time on the show, the way the first episode was all about one day of these kids reuniting, and then the second episode rewinds to show us what was going on in the parents' life, and then we get how that all came together for these kids to like start the process of investigating if their parents are supervillains. The whole conceit is perfect. So I don't know. I'm more excited now than I've seen the first 3 episodes than I was in all of the hype and build up of like some of my favorite show creators working with some of my favorite actors on one of my favorite comic book properties. So, it was going to take a lot to make me this happy, and I feel like they achieved that.
You have been pushing Josh Schwartz to do everything since OC. You wanted him to write an X-Men movie, and God, I think he almost did. I think there was like a time he was considered for I remember when Bryan Singer left X3.
Levon, yeah.
You wanted him, and we wanted Joss Whedon to direct, and I don't know why that never happened. But
Josh Schwartz is a comic book fan who
a huge
understands
comic fan. Yeah.
ensemble casts, balanced writing, and delivering both like opulence, comedy, and drama, right? Like that's what he does. It's like opulent comedy dramas. And that's what Runaways is, right? Like it's angsty, but it never goes like it's angsty done well. It's all about the execution. It's not like watching an episode of Flash, right? Like that's angsty too. But this is different. Like it's dealt with in a much more like nuanced, interesting way. And I don't know. There's just something about the way he executes the same shit we see on TV all the time, but like good, right? Like the OC is like the worst idea for a show because if anyone else did it, it would be horseshit. But the way he dealt with those characters was like brilliant. And so I don't know. I don't know what it is about him. He just tends to be able to do stuff that shouldn't work, but make it work. Like I never thought I'd like a show like Gossip Girl, but it's great. So,
he's a cut above, and like, yeah, he doesn't belong on shows like that, honestly. Now, I think he's better than that. I think this is where he's meant to be all along. Now, this isn't a comic book or a show for everybody. Okay, this plays better to X-Men fans. If you want to,
sure, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It does. If you want to profile the kind of comic fan this is for, it's for X-Men fans. Okay, I dabble in X-Men, that's why I like it. But if you're like a Vertigo, if you're like a Preacher guy or a Punisher guy, you're not going to like the show. This thing is not good for you. I can drift within because I just love comic books, so I can kind of dabble. Like this is normally a show I wouldn't dive into, but believe me, it's good. I think it's good. Because I love the source material, and they were very respectful. Because they weren't, I'd be out. I'd be just like, God, it's another Gifted or anything. But Marvel TV has definitely stepped up in especially with ABC, and now it hasn't been on ABC, especially after Inhumans. You watch this after watching Inhumans, and you're like, how did this come from the same people? Like, I don't understand at all. Whatever. But let's get into episode 3 a little bit, because I think this is like where things kind of picked up and got really cool. So we find out that we did the funeral with Molly's parents and everything. And we find out, I can't remember how far in the episode, that Destiny didn't die. She didn't disappear. And we saw earlier that Victor Stein was having trouble transporting a rat or whatever they were supposed to do. And maybe they were supposed to like disintegrate the girl, and it was supposed to go into the emaciated guy in the room.
It seems as if it's a transference of life force
Yeah. And it didn't work with the rat, and that's why Victor Stein was stressed out. And we later find out that Destiny has indeed survived. Like he opens up the whatever the hell it was, and she's in there. And
the emaciated guy in the room is not getting better like he's supposedly supposed to be getting. I mean, they hint at the fact that something is wrong, and then we find out that the girl washed up on the beach.
By the way, go on to IMDb and check out the guy who plays the emaciated guy. It doesn't look like they used a lot of makeup.
That's hilarious. That is real funny.
Yeah. So that'll be very interesting because we don't know what state he was in before. Like, does he get healthy and they need to plop a kid in there every few years, or like, I don't know.
And theoretically, right, like Victor Stein is in some deep shit here.
Serious deep shit, because his experiment didn't work after he said it would, and then what he does afterwards. So she's still alive, and he's like, you're not supposed to be here, and he does something even worse. He doesn't even sacrifice her. He kills her. He dumps her in the ocean or something. We don't know exactly what happened to her body, but her body pops up. And the Pride finds out about it, and like, oh shit. And you see all the fracturing in the Pride. Like Jeff is building. Alex's dad is building a school in his old neighborhood,
Is that one supposed
and
to be a school?
it's school, yeah,
Because
and
this land deal that he's building is supposed to be like the end game, right? Like everyone's like, okay, we won't have to worry about this anymore because we've got the land. We're starting to develop the land, right? Like that's the
yeah,
whole thing.
and that's
We
I
don't
guess
know what
that's the
that is.
front. Yeah,
Yeah,
they're fronting as a school, and it's going in a neighborhood. He saw some of his old neighborhood guys. I guess he used to be some kind of drug lord or something like that. And he saw a partner, his brother, I don't know who the hell it was, and got threatened. So we see the
rethreatened.
fracture there. He's
Yep.
already like, I'm not sure about what we're killing kids here. His wife seemed, like, yeah, it sucks, but we got to do it.
Yep.
We,
That's what we
made the
got to do. We
sacrifice.
got it.
Each family has their own person that's kind of feeling the stress from this. And I think in Victor, I think Victor Stein is like having regrets. I think his wife is actually okay with it. Because
Huh. That's
she
an
seemed
interesting
like the
read.
one who's actually okay with it, and it like might actually be bothering him. Now he is a dick, but you could separate the fact that he's a dick and he's horrible and he beats his son, but he still might regret killing a girl. And
Well,
then
it seems weird though that she would be the one having problems when she's sleeping with when she's sleeping with Nico's dad, who does not like what's going on at all, and it's the mom, Nico's mom, that's like totally all in.
well, when Nico's dad and her meet an apartment that he bought for her, and he
Yeah,
tells her, he's like, "Oh, I got this for you, and I'm ready to take the next step." She's like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa. We didn't talk about this. This is just
yeah.
fun." So that showed me a different side of her. Like, she knows what she is actually in control. She's trying to hold this thing together until the end game. I
Okay.
mean, I don't think she's happy about it, but I think that's all she's like. I'm just trying to, I got my eyes on the prize here.
Yep.
And I've got two guys. I got one I'm married to and hate, but I got to keep him together. And then I got this affair on the side who's now all of a sudden in love with me. Jesus Christ. So yeah,
Excuse me.
that shows. So each family, and it is interesting that they flipped the script on a lot of like they got more women in charge, which is cool, whatever.
Yep.
But there's the CEO, and then I always want to say Carolina. Carolina, is it Carolina? I always
Carolina.
Carolina, not Carolina. Her mom is in charge of the church,
Yes.
and she kind of seems like the head,
That's the
leader.
first one that's real. I think that one's flipped where the dad was more in control of that
Alex's
relationship in the
dad
comic
was,
books. Alice's dad was more in control in the comic books, and I would say the um, Nico's mom was always though the alpha in that relationship. She was always the one
yeah,
calling that one. So I don't. Yeah, this definitely some have flipped here,
nothing
and
big,
the
nothing big.
hippies are the weird ones though. Like they that's it's such a change. Like they're so overplaying that they're like they I don't know. But you're right. There's all these fractions. Like, I mean, they're looking to get out of this thing and go into hiding. Gertz parents, right? So you're right. We can see all these fractures forming.
Yeah, we still have a
Or
lot to learn about the Pride, even though they have told us a lot more characterization than they did in the comic books. There's a lot more we have to learn about the actual Pride.
Carolina's mom though is the one that's the most in on whatever this end game is, right? Like
Yep.
she's the one who's seems to be leading the charge here as much like not necessarily holding it together, but like it's almost like she doesn't even realize she has to hold it together because she assumes everyone's on the same page, right? Like she's the most all in on the plans, so not realizing all these fractures exist maybe.
Yeah. So with the characters, I think we forgot. One thing I wanted to mention. I lost my paper. Here we go. Here we go. So each one of these characters, and we didn't see them all, has a power, and it's from a different. That's the cool thing about this book is, and that's what sucks that they don't have the rights to mutants because
Yeah, let's do this before you say this. Everyone, let's just go spoilery now. You guys have had an hour of us kind of talking generally about the differences. Get out of here if you care about spoilers. Go read the books, come back later and watch this. Let's just go full spoiler now.
So yeah, and these are going to be spoilers for the comics, which may or may not be spoilers for the show.
Exactly.
We don't know. We're going to kind of do this how we did American Gods.
Yeah.
We've eventually just like, hey, this is a spoiler cast. Sorry.
Yeah.
So Molly is a mutant. Okay. so every kid has a power from a different source in the Marvel universe. We got kind of like Iron Man tech, which is Chase. Um, Alex is just a genius. He's just a prodigy
Yep.
genius. Nico is magic. Uh, Gert has a psychic link with something. Can we say?
Yeah, with her dinosaur that we
With her
met.
dinosaur, Old Lace, which we see at the very end, and it looks like it just walked up the stairs and went nowhere. I don't know what they
Yeah.
did with that. Oh God, help me here. Okay, and is
Carolina's
Carolina?
alien.
Or do you think they're going to make her an alien?
I think so. Yeah, I think she's alien. So we've got the mutant, the alien, the time travelers, the scientist, the gangsters, and the magicians.
Yep,
Um, so yeah, no, I think that they're going to go alien with that, right?
definitely.
Because I think that they might. So the whole idea of this is the Church of Jaborum is really in place of this like celestial god, right? Or like this old god
Yep,
that they're sacrificing kids for, and he's going, and there's like an end game. Like I guess we don't need to spoil the end game, but like there's an end game, and the kids so the parents make this deal with this god that they're going to sacrifice it and they'll get a place in whatever ends up happening after the end game, and they decide that they're all going to give up their place for their kids is how it ends up happening, right? So they're doing all this supposedly for the kids. Now the weird part about this is now the numbers don't really work out because there are there should be less spots than there are kids, and like the father, like Carolina's father, he wouldn't be on board. Like he doesn't even seem to know what's going on anymore. So like there's just some weird things that I feel like maybe they're going to go a different route. And the alliances that we're seeing happen between the different parents, there is some sort of breakdown in the pride in the comic books too, but again the numbers don't really work out if those plot lines were to happen. Like there's not enough parents and too many kids at this point. Um, so I don't know how they're gonna, do some of that stuff. But what do you think? What so yeah, what I think that the emaciated guy is the god that they're either
Jabbar.
a god or an alien that they're sacrificing life force to
I did not
then
see how many
have something.
fingers he had.
I didn't see either.
Yeah, because they're supposed to like the Jaborim are giants with 6 fingers, and they're an alien race or godlike race, the god alien, whatever. In the Marvel universe, usually the gods are aliens that despise humanity, and they have to be fed. So you feed them. They've lost their power, and I'm going off of decade old memory here. So fill in, John, whenever you feel the need.
Yeah.
Their power is emaciated, and they need children to be sacrificed so they can stay alive. And they picked I don't know how I can't remember how they picked out the pride. And
They found like these people who were struggling so much in their career, their ventures, and offered them ways. So like, uh Alex's dad was a struggling gangster, and they basically said like, hey, we'll give you everything you want. Like you'll have whatever you want for this amount of time, but when the end game comes, only half of you are going to make it to the promised land. So enjoy what you have now because it may go away, essentially. And so like the scientists, they gave them all of the knowledge to do all this crazy science stuff, and the time travelers, they gave them the ability to actually time travel. Um, I forget what it was with the aliens, but they just
they
offered them
wanted to
that.
convince them they were making a utopia.
Yes. Oh, the actors, they gave them this great career and everything, right? So all the members of the Pride got where they are because they were offered that by these gods, but they only got it for a set amount of time. And then I think it was like 40 years or something. And then after 40 years, they would have sacrificed enough beings that the human race would be wiped out, and only half of them would be allowed into this new utopia. So then they decided, okay, well, instead of half of us being able to go to the utopia, we each have one child. Well, we will each have one child, and that child will be allowed into heaven, or whatever this utopia was.
Yep.
And that's what the bargain ended up being. So they get everything they want in their life, but then their life is about to end, and their kid is going to be able to live in this utopia.
Yeah. So they are kind of doing this for the love of their children in a very sick way.
Yes.
But also, I mean, not knowing like how bad the Jabarim really are, we don't know if they're going to honor their
We don't know
deal.
if they're going to honor their deal,
Yeah.
and like this Jaborm are very different, right? Like
Yep.
these are these big giants with 6 feet. Like it seems as and tell me if I'm misreading, but I thought that they're sacrificing the life essences to this guy that Carolina's mom is like has in the meditation room. That guy is the god in this scenario.
Yeah.
But
Well,
maybe
I thought I didn't realize that. Okay. Caroline's mom. What's her name again?
Leslie,
Leslie.
Leslie
So
Dean,
Leslie's dad,
Linda
who
Dean.
started the church, is dead. So
Yeah.
maybe that's him. I don't know. That's kind of what they were. That's the gist I
Oh,
got.
so if the Jaborim are aliens, that would make sense that maybe Carolina is one of them. Like that could be an interesting
Yeah,
change.
they could flip that. I don't know. It would be cool if they stuck with the comic stuff. Listen, this comic book series, even though it was set apart for Marvel at first, it becomes very intricate. The Runaways were involved with Civil War. They were involved in Secret Invasion. There was a lot of stuff that they were involved in. So, and they interacted with Marvel characters. They interacted with Wolverine's son. They interacted with the Young Avengers, which was great. uh
Here's the
so
thing, though.
I don't know
They're
where this
slow.
fits in the MCU. That's
I don't think it matters. Like, right? Like,
okay.
they're being particularly vague about it, but
Yes,
they're
there.
also like slow rolling this. I imagined that the first arc, which ended with all these reveals that we're just talking about happening
Yep.
where um, I feel like that arc would have ended after season one. I don't think it is. I think that this is going to
Ooh.
go. I think that and then the second arc was the arc with the like Chamber, and the ex teenage superheroes were like hunting
Yeah.
them down. I thought that arc would be season two. I don't think so anymore. I think that they're going to stretch this out. So the first arc that I think of is the first arc in the comics, which is like I think the first 4 volumes. I think that's going to go multiple seasons. And then I think the second arc will be multiple seasons. So I don't even think we're going to get to a point where the Runaways actually crossed over with anything relevant.
No, and yeah, they can still keep it vague and not see. I think they should put it in the MCU, but
I
keep
do
it
too. It'd be cool to
outside,
have them in the movies.
like kind of like what they're doing with Netflix.
Yeah.
Um, but maybe keep it open to where when you get your streaming service going, Disney, and you can plop anybody where you want, which I mean, that's something to look forward to for the streaming service alone. Like whatever's going on in the MCU at that time, if there is one, they can bring their TV characters out to the movies and do all kinds of crazy stuff, which I'm really looking forward to. But anything that starts right now, I'm kind of wondering if it's going to be around when the streaming
Agree.
service starts. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's why I'm like,
Yeah.
man, committing to Gifted. But this is good enough. I cannot see this not getting a second season. They must
Neither.
be
No, no, no.
what I mean, the people that are involved in this, they must be like really happy with this.
There is no one that I've talked to in advance that had seen this, worked on it, reviewed it. I one of the writers at the Hollywood Reporters, somebody that I talk to frequently, he emailed me after he saw the first 4 episodes, like a month and a half ago, and was just like, dude, just wait. Like this is good. This is real good. Like
Yeah.
everyone I have talked to has kind of had that opinion where they like went in and they were like, "Hey, I saw the first episode. It was pretty good. Hey, I just saw the rest of what they're going to drop early and it's like real good." And so like I already had high expectations. I don't think there's anyone that isn't happy with how this is turning out right now.
Well, that's great. And I'm looking at the episode count right now. It's 13. It's taken us all the way to February 13th because that's great. That's going to take us all the way through to The Expanse.
Yep,
Very happy about this show.
me too. Me
Yeah,
too.
this they hit it out of the park, dude.
I am both like really happy that we get time to digest this in between episodes and also really annoyed that I can't just watch the next episode right now. You know?
Dude, oh man, I have when it comes to certain things, I have no self control, man. When I
Ah,
burned through the Punisher, I lost sleep. I was crabby the
I
whole
might
next
do that
day.
tonight because you were not happy with the first few episodes of The Punisher. It turned around for you?
It did. It did. It really. Oh God. I'd say episode 3. Episode 2 was good. Episode 1 was bad. It was just bad. Okay, it wasn't good. But that's kind of happened with some other Netflix stuff.
Yes.
And they changed the Punisher's origin a little bit, and it pissed me off at first. But when I saw what they did with it at the end, I was like, "Oh, damn! That was actually it's just like Logan. It's something that's wonderful. I will call it probably the second only to Daredevil season 1, in my opinion, which is perfection. But I would not watch it all the way through again. There's no way in hell I will. Just like Logan, I loved Logan. It's not a movie I'm going to go see again.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't
Actually,
like being depressed.
I kind of do want to relate that back to this. This Runaways premiere series of episodes, I'm going to be rewatching this show.
Oh yeah,
This is going to be like a Buffy type show for me, where like years from now I'm going to show another person that I think would like it. I'm going to rewatch it myself. Like, I think that this is made for that. I just, yeah, this to me is the first show I've seen in a very long time, like maybe since the season 1 of Game of Thrones, that I'm like, I'm gonna rewatch this.
yeah. That's what you want out of a show. I mean, like Punisher should win awards, like straight up should win
Yeah.
awards, especially how it dealt with politics. I mean, that is your template forever, Marvel Comics, on how you deal with politics. It showed both sides very evenly. That's how you do it. And that you make solid arguments on both sides, and then you tell your story. And they actually, and it was the subject matter. It's like they couldn't avoid it. Like in Runaways, there's not a lot of politics that are from today or right currently, but with the Punisher coming out, they had to delay the release.
Oh, I lost you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're back.
You're gonna have no mic here. We're gonna have to end this.
Okay, we can end it.
Yes.
We've been talking for a while anyway. Anyway, so head over to facebook.com/neurotic podcast for all of like us over there for all of the content that we're producing, putting out there. If you want to talk about it, that's a social hub for us. You can also go to www.nerdrotic.com. There you'll get every video that we put out. But I think the easiest way to do it, and if you're not already subscribed to us on YouTube, we're the Nerdrotic channel on YouTube. If you only want to listen to us, you can do the iTunes podcast app or SoundCloud. We're the Nerdrotic podcast there. You can follow me on Twitter. I'm at Jon Reed 16, JONREED16. Gary is at Nerdrotics. That's our official Twitter feed. And we also have Patreon. If you want to pledge us some money over there, it's patreon.com/nerdrotic, or it's just Nerdrotic on Patreon. So check that out as well. Look, we're going to be back covering this week to week. We're going to delve more into what happens episode to episode because they'll be dropping one at a time. So please stay tuned. If you didn't dig how we went through this, we'll be back next week, and we'll probably have a slightly different format in place. So look, I love the show. I think everyone should be watching this show. This is my favorite thing we've been talking about in a long, long time. And it's, I'm probably going to go rewatch it many, many times before the next episode comes out.
Yeah, it's really hard to go over 3 shows. It's almost like going over a movie, and that's the thing we struggle with Netflix shows and stuff like that. That's why we haven't put out a Punisher review, for one, because I'm the only one who's watched it all the way through. So yeah, that'll probably come out tomorrow. I'll probably do it. Yeah. All right. So.
Okay, well, stay tuned. Come back next week. We'll be back on Monday, most likely. We'll be doing Gifted and Runaways both on Monday, so those will be late nights. But yeah, we'll be back next week. So thanks for tuning in, guys.
Sorry about my microphone, everybody. I said as soon as this happens during a podcast, I'm getting a new one. So I'm getting a new microphone.
Awesome.
May the small folks sing songs of your greatness.
Awesome. Bye, everybody. Watch Runaways. Get Hulu. It's good.